Good morning, everyone. We're waiting for a few more people to get logged on here, and then we'll get it started. Good morning, Jessica. Good morning, Newcastle. If you have a question that you'd like to have answered about anything, marketing, online marketing, please go ahead and type it in the chat function, and I'll answer those while we're waiting for a few more people to come on. Jessica, what school are you representing? And Newcastle, what school are you representing? Please type that in the chat. All right, Village Academy and Valencia Montessori Academy. Okay, good. Excellent. George has a question about Google Maps, specifically, how important are they? So George, Google Maps are extremely important, especially from when they went from the 7-pack down to the 3-pack, which they are now, because the one thing that's kind of implied as people see you in that area is that you're Google's recommended source for childcare. So today it's as important as ever to get in there. It takes a combination of building backlinks to your site, creating citations on like Yelp and Facebook and Hot Frog and Best of the West and several others to get you up there in ranking. And there's several little key features as you fill out Google My Business to make sure that you in fact can rank. So make sure that you fill out absolutely everything you possibly can, and also do not keyword stuff. So don't use all of the terms childcare, daycare, preschool, before school, after school, and the list goes on. You want to narrow it down to what is the one area that you want your school to grow in. You can have 1 or 2 keywords in there, but don't go crazy. And I believe it lets you select 3 categories. So you want to make sure that your number 1 category, if you want to be a preschool or Montessori school or whatever, that's your number 1 category. And then again, preschool number 1, daycare number 2, and then whatever other one applies to you, because you may have languages or special enrichment programs or whatever. So all of those things. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started here. So today we're going to learn how to accelerate your calls and tours using pay-per-click advertising, also sometimes known as Google AdWords. Oops. This is all part of the 2017 Internet Marketing Plan series, where we're learning how to maximize our web presence using the latest internet marketing strategies. If you missed it, you will get a replay of this one, but you can go out to localchildcaremarketing.com/2017-webinar replay, and that will give you this initial one. This is the 5th webinar in the series, and so there's additional information on maps, which would answer George's question, which was last month. The month before that, I believe I did conversion, SEO, and then this plan, and I'm missing one. So this will be the 5th. So in web presence domination method that we use, it starts out here with our foundation. We need on our website strong copy that'll convert. We need all the on-page SEO factors taken into account. We need to make sure that we're building links back to the site. We're doing directories. Again, that's the Yelp, Hot Frog, Best of the West, things like that. You need to make sure that you're blogging on your website every single month, a minimum of 2 blog posts is preferred, and then make sure you're monitoring your reputation and responding to anything that comes up. Once you've got that handled and doing well at that, social media engagement, childcare, it's essential that you're communicating on your Facebook page. You should be doing at least 1 post a day on Facebook and Twitter, and there's a way to connect Facebook and Twitter. So, you know, I'm not going to hold back any secrets here. So if you ask a question, I'll gladly explain it the best I can or point you in the right direction. Google Plus, you need to be posting on that 3 times a week. I know I often hear comments, well, nobody goes there. That's fine, but it creates what's called social signals. And those social signals, and especially because Google owns that property, are extremely important. And then Pinterest and Instagram as well, a couple times a week as a minimum. Then as your budget can afford it, move into social media advertising, Facebook, Instagram, specifically, are where you want to put your money. And then, as we're going to discuss today, pay-per-click advertising and using Google AdWords and Bing search. Then we move on to 5, it's just retargeting, reputation marketing, and 6, email marketing, directory ads, postcard marketing, and referral programs. And I know postcard and referral are not really online methods, but they tie in really well, and that's why I include them in this dominance method. I really need your attention today. I would appreciate that. Please turn off your cell phones, turn off Facebook, anything else that chirps or chimes, and give me 50 to 70 minutes today, and we'll get focused on doing what works for online marketing, especially in the area of pay-per-click today. So what we're going to cover is why PPC is the key to unlimited scalability in terms of calls and tours, live examples of PPC campaigns generating 5 to 15% ROI for your childcare business, how to set up and structure your pay-per-click marketing campaign, and that should say pay-per-click advertising because this is advertising where Maps is marketing, for example, so you can minimize your cost per lead and maximize your return on investment. Talk about key performance indicators, tracking, landing pages, and campaign structure. So that's what we're going to cover today. Who am I? My name is Jeff Fisher. Why I think you'll enjoy the time together and it's worth listening to me. I enjoy helping others achieve their dreams and goals. We currently work with over 150 locations and businesses. So we obviously are able to communicate well and identify dreams and goals and help out. I relate to entrepreneurs because I am one. I've bought, sold, and operated over 10 businesses. I'm a speaker. I have spoken on the stage for both Chris Murray and Julie Barkas at their childcare conferences. I'm a certified online marketing strategist for local internet marketing association. And this is what people are saying. You know, past 3 years has had a dramatic impact on our center. We're full and have waiting lists in several classrooms. That's from Jane Germano at Young Scholars Academy. Ms. Gutierrez here, we're helpful in understanding of the center, their staff, their parents' needs, and they respond to my questions and concerns. And here it's because they have an awesome website. So that's why I think it's worth listening to me and what others are saying about local childcare marketing. We've helped hundreds of childcare centers. So we've helped multi-center owners. So anywhere from 5 locations to 2. And many of those have 3 locations. We've also helped single center owners. And we've also worked with Montessori schools as well. So we have a pretty good background in all things childcare and how to do marketing. We also, when we build a website for people, we write the copy because we feel like we're experienced enough and have been in this niche long enough to be able to write great copy for your website. This is what we do. Here's some of the leaders in our team, and it's not our entire team, but this is what they do every single day. They specialize in all aspects of online marketing. So if I can't answer a question, I have a great depth in the team to ask the specialist exactly what's going on and how it's happening. So pay-per-click advertising. The benefits, you start showing up quickly. You show up as often as possible where your customers are looking. You show up for non-geographic modified terms like preschool, childcare, and daycare. So again, you don't need preschool Denver, childcare Denver, daycare Denver to show up. That's not required. And there's an unlimited amount of scalability within your geographic reach. And the one thing that's interesting about childcare is one of the limitations to scalability is how well you are able to define where your parents come from so that we can target on the map as precisely as possible. That really works, because in some cities, you know, it's a pure 4 to 5 mile circle right around the center. Other cities, if the center sets right off the freeway, it might be 7 or 8 miles north on the freeway, 7 or 8 miles south on the freeway, because you're just the natural stopping point for them to go into the middle of the city for government jobs or things like that. So that's the real only limitation on scalability. And you can scale this simply by just telling us to spend more money on your behalf and get the results that you're expecting. Why do most PPC campaigns fail? So when you're using a service like Yodel, Reach Local, they don't specialize in childcare. So they have a formula that they use, and it's a pretty good formula, but there's other things that I especially don't like, which is not revealing how much of your ad spend is for you and paying to Google and how much is a management fee. So you want to have open disclosure on how much of what you're spending is going out to buy ads on your behalf. So you fail to understand the AdWords auction process and the complexity of childcare and preschool industry. You set up only one ad group for all services, and I'll explain that in more detail. You don't use specific text ads and landing pages for groups of keywords, and there's no strong call to action or offer on the landing pages. So we'll look at all of that before we're done. So what we want to do is make sure that you're not doing these particular things. So how to set up and structure your pay-per-click advertising campaign for the minimum cost per lead and maximum ROI. Hang on a second, I have a question here. Hi, Julie. Julie's question is about Facebook advertising, and is it preferred over pay-per-click advertising? It really comes down, Julie, to two things. One is, what is your budget? How many open seats do you need to fill? And how active are you on social media? If you're active on social media and you're putting up constantly good information on your Facebook page, for example, then Facebook advertising is good. You can do it even if you don't have a page, but we do see better benefits if you have a great page where people are interacting with it, because they're going to see your ad. Pay-per-click also is great. It's a little more expensive than Facebook advertising. However, you can get good quality leads on pay-per-click because you're taking them to a specific page with a very specific offer. So again, when they're inside of Facebook, they're using the different profile information to decide who to serve up your ad for. Whereas in search, meaning they typed in, I need a childcare in Denver, or something to that effect, best childcare in Denver, they're getting even a more precise calling for action, meaning they searched for it and they showed up for it specifically. So now back to pay-per-click. So if you have a small budget, Facebook advertising. If you have a bigger budget, I believe you'll get a better return on pay-per-click. So let's just look at what this means. So here's a dashboard that we use to show exactly what's going on. In this particular case, in a 30-day window, they had 204 clicks. There were 4,495 impressions. An impression is just simply your ad showed up, but nobody clicked on it. We had a click-through rate of 4.54, which is a great click-through rate. Pretty average in the industry out there is about 1.5 to 2. So we're double that, and that's where we talk about working with a specialized child care agency. Makes a big difference. Average cost per click, $2.18. And the position we're in is in the position 1 or 2. So that's good as well. Down below, you can see the keywords that were the top performing. So because it's time for summer camp, obviously, summer camp is several of those keywords that you're seeing down below. But here's the real metrics. So this generated 27 leads. You can see qualified lead calls were 24, and forms on the website were 3. So that's your 27 leads. So the ad spend was $444. In this case, that's a cost per lead of 16. This particular center has told me that they typically average for every 4 calls, they'll get 1 new enrollment. So they get 6.7 enrollments out of these 27 leads. Assuming their tuition monthly is $800, I did that number just for simple math. And assuming their lifespan is 12 to 36 months, so we got 6.75 enrollments at $800 a month, and I just used 18 months. So the lifetime value of this 1 month's campaign, remember it's just this 1 month's campaign, is $97,200. So what's their return on spend? So they spent $444. So they got $218 for every $1 that was spent. So there's a return on spend and then a return on investment. Assuming you make a net profit of 15%, then your net profit would be $14,580 divided by the 444. So there's $32.84. So what that means is you're putting $1 in the top of the machine and it's spitting out $32. And my question is, if that's happening, you're putting $1 into the top of the machine and it's spitting out $32, what are you going to do with that $32? Well, I might put half of it in my pocket and take $16 and stick it in the top. And what does that tell me? Well, that's going to be 16 times 32. So it pays to reinvest some of this, some of your money back into additional campaigns, more area, bigger reach. So that's a great campaign. Here's more of an average campaign. Again, I'm not going to go through all the numbers on the left side. You can, in the replay, look at those in detail if you want. But this one presented 7 calls and 8 forms. So they got 15 leads. Their spend was just over $400. So their cost per lead was $27. Average close for this particular center, they're not quite as good on the phone, is out of 15 leads, they'll get 3 at $800 a month. Their lifetime value for this, 3 times 800 times 18 is $43,000 from, again, 1 month's ad spend. This is just 1 month that you're seeing here. So if you do this over and over, you can rapidly grow your center. Return on spend, so about $106 for every $1 they spend, and $15 ROI. So again, put $1 in the top of the machine, almost $16 is coming out the bottom of the machine. So you want to do that over and over again. So these are the metrics that you should be tracking if you're doing this on your own, or if you have an agency, you should be seeing something like this every single month. The big thing that a lot of AdWords gurus per se do is they show you a ton of data, and what's really the reason they're doing that is they're hiding information within the data of how they're underperforming. So we want to make sure that we disclose it all. So when I talked about click-through rate of between 1.5 and 2 is kind of the industry average, you can see here we're at 5, 2.5, almost 6, 2.5, 2, 2.5, almost 4, 2, 3.5. So, and then on daycare provider, we're at 15. So we're kicking butt there on that click-through rate, which means they're getting to the landing page, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. How do you structure your PPC campaign? So you need to have some kind of conversion tracking. That's a must. Google AdWords provides a code that you can put on your landing page. That's one way of doing it. Your campaign must be broken down into smaller ad groups, targeting your various programs so that you provide text ads that match what the person has typed in. So when somebody types in preschool Denver and they click on your ad, if they land on a page that says best daycare in Denver, that's not alignment. So you're going to have a lower conversion rate just simply because that preschool Denver should have landed on a page that said best preschool in Denver. Here's the reasons why. Here's why you should trust us. Here's what you should do next. Make sure you have a strong understanding of your keyword match types, and don't forget about negative keywords, and we'll talk about all of these things as I keep going forward. You need to write compelling text ads that resonates with what the customer typed in and entice them to click on you versus the competition. So a lot of times all you need to do is search and review your competition, pick apart what they're doing wrong, and then write your ad. Works really well. Leverage ad extensions to make sure that your ad stands out on the page. And you have to have visitors show up on a page that's well built and will convert for that particular topic. So that's how you structure it. And again, I'll go through these. And then doing ongoing split testing, tweaking, and fine tuning. Too often what we see is people start doing pay-per-click on their own, they get some results, and then they just kind of leave it on autopilot. And that's fine. You may be happy with paying, $40 per lead and closing 5 or 6, so it's costing you $200, $250 to get a new student. Or you saw, I showed you that we were paying $16 and closing every 4. So that person is paying, what, about $60 per lead. So what's the difference? $250 to get one new customer, or $60 or $70 to get a new customer? Makes a huge difference. So you want to make sure that you're constantly split testing, tweaking, and fine tuning. We open every single account at least once a week and are always doing that. And I'll talk about that in detail too. But don't ever think about spending another penny until you have your conversion tracking in place. Because if you can't see your results, you have no idea where your money's going. And sometimes it can be simple little things, like we'll write an ad that uses stop by for a visit and another ad that writes stop by for a tour. And most people think, well, tour will actually do better because that's what we call it. Well, that's great. That's what you call it. But your parent may refer to it as a visitor. And so you need both of those ads going interchangeably, so every other time they're showing up, until you find out what is the term that's being used in your marketplace. And if you see, for example, that 70% of the clicks are coming from the word visit, then you know tour's not working. So now you want to rework that tour ad to include the word visit or some other term that you might want to use. Just stop on by, for example. So you need dynamic number swapping. You need a different phone number for pay-per-click advertising, and you need a different one for organic, direct traffic, and also any other thing that can be covered, where if you're using a postcard, for example, you want to use that particular phone number so they call it, so you can see that it's different than your pay-per-click or your organic, things like that. You want to have a web form that does tracking, so when they fill out a form, it in fact gets tracked and you can pull those numbers together. That's how I was able to tell you in the one particular case, 24 calls and 3 forms. And in the other case, I believe it was 7 forms and 5 calls. So I can tell you that specifically. That's their conversion tracking. As I said, conversion tracking is built into AdWords campaign, and it will help you determine which of your ad groups generate better leads. And so when we say ad groups, we want to use similar terms. So daycare, daycare with a space, daycare in, daycare with a city name, Denver I'm using as the example today. And then you want to avoid putting in preschool, because preschool should have its own ad group where you have preschool, pre-K, and other terms that all relate to preschool. Childcare different than daycare and preschool. After school program or after school care needs to be in its own ad group as well. So the most important key indicators are: what's your total spend, what's your average cost per click, average cost per lead for calls and web forms. I don't know why I put in plumbing, but childcare should be $25 to $40. I apologize for that. Return on investment. So what are you getting? So again, you want to be looking at your top performing ad groups. So we can see here in this particular one, and we want to watch this month over month. Daycare got 35 clicks, preschool got 16, childcare got 7. So I have a lot of center owners that, especially like a Montessori school, says, well, we don't want to be known as a daycare, and that's fine. And preschools do it as well. We don't want to be known as a daycare. We do much more than that. And I'm like, that's great. But again, we need to know what the buyer's intent is. And where you can see it here, I mean, daycare gets double the number of clicks to preschool and gets 5 times the number of clicks to daycare, to childcare, I'm sorry. So you need to look at those particular things. You can see the click-through rate is much higher on that. So again, this is what parents are thinking. So if you look overall, you got 44 of these clicks that came in that all have the childcare name in, or daycare name in it. So you definitely want to be advertising as a daycare. When you get on the landing page and, you know, best daycare in town, but we're much more than that. We're a Montessori school, and here's our beliefs, and here's why you should choose us, and here's what you should do next. Because that's what every page should talk about: is who are we, what have we got, why trust us, and then finally what to do next. So pick up the phone, fill out the form, whatever it is. So you want to be doing that in your PPC campaign and throughout your website. So when you look at your website, if every page on your website doesn't answer those 4 questions, you need to rework your website pages to make sure those questions are answered throughout. So your campaign must be broken into smaller ad groups targeting various services that you provide so that your text ads match what the person typed in. So I guarantee you there is no other pay-per-click provider out there that has as many ad groups as we do. Because you can see here, just for the word daycare, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32. So we have 32 ad groups that are broken down in variations. So in this particular case, this is broken down for daycare into daycare, exact match, daycare phrase match. And you notice here it's without a space, here it's with a space, and then you got daycare phrase match again with a space. So you want to have it then show your ads. You want to have 2 ads. Again, these ads are competing against each other. And so you look at, you know, what's different on this. So in this case, it's mention 4 weeks, and here it's ask about 4 weeks. So right now, that's what we're testing to see which one of those performs better. And let's say ask about performs better, then we'll come back up here and we'll change this to ask about, and then we'll change this out to tour, and we'll leave that as visit. So then we'll let those compete for a month against each other, and then we'll go on from there. So that's the kind of detail that you're looking at doing over time. So you need to pay attention to negative keywords also. So first there's broad match, then there's modified broad match, there's phrase match, and exact match. So these are, again, I'm not going to go into great detail here, but you need to be asking your current provider, or if you're doing this yourself, you need to study up on broad match, modified broad match. So broad match means they will show anything that in your area. So if you type in childcare, you're going to see a whole list of different childcare centers. And then if you just take that one term and you put plus childcare, that means childcare has to be in it every single time in the phrase and the title on the page. Phrase match, best used when you're doing things that include the near me or in the city. And because you've got the quotes around them, they will give even more precise information about a daycare near me or daycare in Dallas, for example. And then exact match, if you put in Reno daycare, it has to say those words exactly or it will not show up. So we use a combination of phrase match and exact match for most things that we do. Sometimes we use modified broad. We hardly ever use broad match itself. So then you want to make sure that you figure out what your negative keywords are. We currently have a list of about 400, but I'll give you just some ideas. So childcare website. So if somebody types in childcare website, you want to make sure it doesn't show up, because otherwise a broad match will work and a modified broad match will get you that childcare marketing, childcare association, childcare careers, because if you're going to have a careers or jobs page, it should have its own set of negative keywords, and it should have its own landing page as well. So we do pay-per-click advertising for customers that are trying to fill positions. Oops. So compelling ads that resonates with what the customer typed in and entice them to click you versus the competitor. So oftentimes less is more. Get to the point, tell them what you've got, and again, why buy from me or why check me out? Tell them exactly what you want them to do. If you have a special offer for the program that they search and you reference it in the ad text, all the better. So free registration, 4 weeks free are some examples. $500 off over 5 months is another example of one we've tried and had good success. And then give them one decision. So what I mean by that is they're either going to call or fill out a web form. You're not going to push them any other direction. You're not going to try and link them off to your main website. In the ad copy, you may decide, and we test it, sometimes we leave the navigation bar across the top of the landing page, and sometimes we remove it so they only stay on the page. And that really depends. We start out always without it on the page, and if we're not getting the success rate that we anticipate, then we add the navigation bar in. The reason we do that, even though it's not a recommended practice per se in pay-per-click advertising, we found, again, in the childcare niche, what we know that's different is there's a lot more trust that goes into making this buying decision versus, say, plumbing repair. In that particular niche, they're looking at who can come out to solve their problem immediately. Where here you're looking to find a childcare and an education format that fits you and works well for you. So here's some sample ads. Again, we're free registration. We're playing with it above and below. We also, I forgot to mention, do mobile ads. So we have different advertising for mobile devices. So we try all of these different ads. Here's an example of summer camp. We use trendy terms, fear factor, amazing race, jumps some of the exciting, and it cuts off here in my example, but it goes on. Fun daily activities, awesome field trips. So again, these three are actually running in competition with each one. So you can see summer day camp, summer camp for kids, summer camp, certified staff on all three. Over here again, we got mobile, and then we've got some additional ads here. And then let's talk about call extensions, because you want to get the most out of it that you possibly can. So I was able to get this to pop up this morning. A lot of times the problem with child care centers, I was building out this slideshow last night and I couldn't get anything to pop because we stopped advertising at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., something like that, to conserve our budget. But what you want to do is make sure you're using all of these different components that are called extensions. So the first one here is a call out extension, so it adds an additional line. So in your case, Jessica, I would add the Montessori, Premier Montessori School, and whatever you want there in your call out extension. And then your call extension, so you're putting the phone number so they can call right from this ad. They don't even have to click through the ad. Why we do this, and this is kind of one of the really cool parts, is if they call this particular number, you're not going to pay the $4 or $5 for this click. So that's to your advantage. And then you're also going to put in a location extension right here. So again, if they're familiar with you, they've driven by your center, they can now locate you per se in your head. So those are all good things in call out extensions. And there's a lot of ways that you can set your call out extension. So senior discounts, military discounts, messages, locations, price, apps, reviews, and there's more above this. So there's all different kinds of ways to call out different extensions. And you just have to learn what Google will allow you based on how many extensions you're trying to put in. They'll tell you when to stop. So we talk about having a solid landing page. So here's an example of a landing page that we use on the Apple Tree Learning Centers. We've had good success with this particular landing page. So when we look at it, we see here free registration. So let's see if I can go back here easily enough. So you'll see here on the left-hand side, this is ask about free registration. So we make a big deal about free registration on that particular ad, both in mobile and desktop. We also clearly define the location here very quickly, because we know in childcare, most people are only willing to drive about 5 miles unless you have something that's really exceptional. You have like a Montessori school, the distance is more like 10 miles, for example. Your other preschools and academies, if you have dual language immersion type programs, a lot of times that'll get them to drive more than 4 or 5 miles. But they won't get them to typically drive 15 or 20 miles out of their way unless you're the only school that has the program that they're looking for. So we go into it, we talk about, the fact that their child deserves the best after school care in this particular one that I did, and the parent deserves free registration. And then go into, like I talked about, why trust us, and why have the phone number, and continuing in the why trust us. So this is a landing page. In this particular case, we experimented back and forth, and we got better response once we put the nav bar in. Typically, the nav bar is not there. So how to accelerate your calls and tours via paid search for preschools and childcare centers. First of all, make sure you have conversion tracking. Your campaign needs to be broken into small ad groups and targeted for the various services that you provide so that your text ads match what the person typed. Make sure you have a strong understanding of the keyword match types, and don't forget about negative keywords. You need to write compelling text ads that resonates with what the customer's typing, and you want to entice them to click. You want to leverage those ad extensions to make your ad stand out and give them additional reasons to click on your ad. And you have them land on a solid, well thought out page on your site that's built to convert. So the thing you want to avoid is taking them to your home page. And oftentimes we see our competition doing just that. They just take everything to the home page, and their click-through rate and their web form fill-outs will be dramatically lower. Because when I'm typing in, I need a preschool in Denver or in North Denver or East Denver, I'm working to solve a problem. And I don't necessarily want to read all the different components of the website. I want to see if you have preschool, because I'm just simply going to, I'm one of those people that as soon as I know you have it, I'm going to call and I'm going to ask the questions. I don't want to read the website. That's Jeff during the day. Jeff at night, I want to have a form. I want to be able to fill it out. I want you to call me back the next day during a time frame that I've indicated, because I'm a night owl, and when I'm trying to solve some of my personal problems, the best time of day is to fill out a form and get it sent in to me. So again, what I talked about, each one of these is an ad group. Every one of these ad groups has a variety of keywords inside of it, and then the ads line up with the ad group that we're trying to promote. You've got a great landing page, and then you're tracking your conversions. So again, here we're looking at Tucson in this particular case. And like I said, this couple that run this center typically close about 1 out of 5. So we know in this 15, we should get in 3 new enrollments in this particular month. So we know that this ad spend is paying for itself every single month. And again, here we see daycare, daycares, daycare. So if you add all those up, out of all these different 105 clicks, that's well over 50% use the word childcare, or I'm sorry, daycare. Preschool only gets 19, so about 20%. So you want to know that, and you want to manage your ad budget accordingly. So you may set a bigger ad budget for daycare and a smaller ad budget for preschool or childcare, whatever the case may be. And if you're working with somebody, they should know this, and they should be working on this with you. So if you are working with somebody, how much of my budget will go to Google AdWords spend versus management fees? So that should be fairly disclosed. And like I indicated, if you're working with like Yodel or Reach Local, they're going to tell you a single number, and then you're never going to have an idea how much of your money goes to actually paying for advertising versus how much is management fees. So make sure if you have a PPC provider that you're asking that. What are they doing to track everything, and how do they track AdWords calls and web forms for conversions? So you want to make sure you understand how they're tracking, and when they send you a report, how that's quantified on the report. And again, like I said, you really want to be watching, this simple report tells me everything I need to know about what happened in the last 30 days. So, we're a little bit below the goal here of 4 to 5 per week, per weekday. So, ideally we'd like about 120 clicks. We only had 105, but they were converting well, so nothing to worry about. If you don't have web and call conversion tracking that pulls into AdWords, you'll be in a major disadvantage compared to the competition, because there's no way to pull all this data together and use that data on your behalf. So you want to make sure that that's happening. You want to make sure that they're keeping track of PPC calls versus organic calls. So that's important. Remember, collectively at the end of every 30 days, if you look at it, you want to look at your overall web presence. And, is your search engine traffic or organic calls driving as much as you anticipated from those calls versus PPC calls? Because the reality is SEO can take anywhere from 4 to 8 or 9 months to really rev up, because you have to do a ton of work building directory listings, optimizing the website, getting backlinks, all those things. Where pay-per-click within 10 to 15 days after starting with your provider, they should be starting to send you leads that are qualified. So know what your key performance indicators are, and if they provide a live dashboard. Currently, we do not. We've had no real request for a live dashboard. We do custom one-on-one meetings with customers as they want information. We find that's more effective. We used to have a live dashboard, cost us a ton of money, but nobody ever logged in. So we wanted to make sure people were logging in. Key metrics, average cost per lead generated. Make sure they're setting up specific landing pages for each ad group or each batch. So in our case, because we do approximately 400 ad groups, all of the daycare ones end up on a daycare page. So even though, I forget the number that I have, but like 30 ad groups, they all end up on a page that's talking about daycare. Preschool, we have about 30. It ends up on a page that's talking about preschool. But again, most providers don't do that many. So make sure that you have a way to ensure that the ad matches or aligns with the landing page that it gets on. So if you're clicking on a preschool ad, the first thing they should see somewhere in the first 2 sentences is the word preschool. How are those landing pages optimized for conversion? Are they split testing? Are they moving, things around? Are they putting the phone number over top of the form, running that for a month, and then moving the form over top of the phone number, running that for a month to see how the conversions might be changing? Are they changing the headlines occasionally to test those? When you change a headline, typically you don't want to change anything more than 1 to 2 words between the 2 headlines, and so that's how far this can get taken down over time. So a lot of times we have customers that in the first 3 months say, well, the leads are costing us more than we expected. And we're like, yeah, but the thing about pay-per-click is the more time we have to manage to narrow it down to add negative keywords. I mean, we didn't learn those 400 negative keywords in a day. We had to watch and manage every one of our sites and figure those things out. We had to learn things like nanny care is a term used in the Southeast, but it's not used pretty much anywhere else. So, in an ad that is on the West Coast, we're going to put nanny care in as a negative keyword, and it's going to be a positive keyword in the Southwest. So split testing each ad group. Leverage all your ad extensions to make sure the text ads stand out. And what are your targets in terms of cost per lead, return on spend, estimated return on investment? So knowing those numbers, these are the questions right here that you should be asking anybody that you're working with on pay-per-click. If they can't answer them, and it starts with number 1 there, if they're not willing to disclose the difference between their management fee and their AdWords spend, I would not work with them, simply because the reason they're not willing to share is it's an unrealistic ratio. So there's a lot of work in each campaign. So depending on the size of the campaign, a monthly management fee from anywhere from $500 to $1,000 can apply. Again, it depends on how many of those ad groups you need monitored, how many landing page needs to be created, because the more landing pages you have, the more work you have to do split testing and stuff. So if you're paying too little, I know of companies that will do AdWords management for $99 a month. I guarantee you they put in the first batch of keywords, hit go, and they never look at it until they pull a report. They can't because they're not making any money unless they do it any other way. What makes our campaigns better or different? We split the campaign into strategic ad groups based on our experience in preschool and childcare centers, so we can target the most needed enrollments. So that's the other thing. It's not a precise science, but if you need more 3-year-olds, for example, we work with you to understand what's the vocabulary that's most used in your region of the country, and then we put the majority of the budget into that type of campaign. If you need more infants, then we're going to put more money and emphasis into infant care, so we can do that. As I said, we optimize all the landing pages. We set up true conversion, so we're tracking calls and web forms, and we're associating those with the campaigns and the keywords that they come from, so we know exactly what's going on. We track PPC, organic, Facebook advertising, postcards, newspaper ads, radio station ads in our call tracking software. Know which keywords are driving your calls and at what cost, so you can decide how to adjust your budget. The one interesting limitation in childcare that you don't have in, say again, plumbing repair is the simple thing that once you have a classroom filled, we need to know that. You can start a waiting list for that classroom, obviously, but we want to adjust your budget to target other things along the way. So that's, how we can move that money around to fill up the next room to some degree. We don't have, it's not precise, because remember, the majority of parents are typing in the word daycare for everything that they want, but we'll make a real big effort to try and target as closely as we can to the age group that you need. So you want to stop wasting money on terms that don't net a result, and you want to make sure you have multiple ads, and we rotate them on the best converting ads each month. So these are all the things that we do that we think make us different, and we have complete transparency in terms of spend to AdWords, and I forgot what I was going to say there. So we have that kind of transparency, and that's why if you have a question, we do a one-on-one meeting to meet up with you and make sure that you're getting the information that you need. All right, I'm going to make this offer, and then I say I have a couple of questions over here. So what we offer on each of these webinars is a free 2017 online marketing plan review. There's absolutely no obligation to spend any money with you, but I'll spend an hour walking through your website, looking at your social media, looking at your keyword lists, seeing that you have the most important search terms. We'll look at your overall online visibility. We refer to that as your web presence. We'll look at rankings, showing how your ranks are currently doing. We'll analyze online directory listings for consistency. So, oftentimes the name is different. So, child care, Children's Academy, Fishhawk on some directory listings, and Children's Academy Lithia on other directories. So we need to make sure that we know what the exact business name is, because Google prefers that over everything. And then we go through and fix up all of those. And that's a big, big process. Again, I covered that in the Maps webinar last month. We'll look at your social presence. Are you on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, and Google+? And then we'll look at your website conversion effectiveness. So if you're interested in a free review, please give me a call at 888-354-6196, 888-354-6196. And Leonard, if you type in your question, that would be helpful. Putting in "I have a question" doesn't help me out there. So again, just a quick showing this, the web presence dominance method. So you need to be doing some variation of all 10 of these different things for your childcare or preschool. And questions. So pay-per-click advertising, what's the smallest budget you can run? In childcare, we find the smallest budget that we want to work with is typically $400 a month. And again, it depends on the population density of where you live. If you're in a highly dense population base, we want an additional upwards of $750 per month. Again, management fee, somewhere in the $500 range for that. But again, if you're getting a lead for $16 per lead and you're closing one out every 4, you're paying less than $100 for each new lead a new enrollment that you're getting. So that's how that comes into play. So that's Based on our experience in working with several centers in pay-per-click advertising, $450 to $750 usually works well. If we have the ability within the tracking software to tell what percentage of the time your ad is getting shown, when are you running out of budget so your ad's not showing anymore, and if you're running out of budget every day by noon and you're not getting as many leads as you want, we need to expand your budget to get you additional leads early in the afternoon or evening whenever we decide to do best. Okay, Leonard. So why should you only do text ads? For childcare, yes, text ads are the best way to go. You can do other things like display ads, but all of these things cost money. And my experience is when we're looking at trying to do an overall web presence and incorporate pay-per-click advertising into the web presence, the other types of ads that you can run in Google, Bing, and Yahoo are different, and they don't get as great a results. And then, of course, back to Facebook, it's more of a display type ad, and that's the only type ad you can run, so that would be what you're running in Facebook. So next question, with my limited budget, should I focus on AdWords or my regular search results in Google and SEO? So today I recommend that you start out with pay-per-click advertising, and in most instances that we work with, we're going to have to rebuild your website because it's not well optimized. So while your website's getting rebuilt to better convert and optimize, we have a variety of methods where we can set up pay-per-click advertising, and we actually take them to a landing page that we've designed that actually doesn't go to your website at all in the first couple of months until we get your website up. So we can start driving leads immediately. And then you want to also be working on organic. If you can't afford organic, then make sure you're getting at least two blog posts every single month up. Make sure that you go back and watch my SEO optimization webinar that tells you how to better optimize your website. And if you're getting those two blog posts up, you're learning how to optimize your website, then you need to go look at the maps and start making sure you're in the directory listings. So make sure that it's consistent. And there's lots of little tools out there that if you just cite, directory listings, tracker or something like that, you'll come up with different tools that'll show you how well you're doing or not doing. And again, I cover all of that in my previous webinar. Okay, I got a couple minutes here left. Any other questions? Jessica, Newcastle, George, Susie, I'm reaching out to have a couple more questions here. And if not, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. So while I'm waiting for questions to come in, again, give us a call, 888-354-6196, or log into localchildcaremarketing.com/schedule, and we'll set up a 60-minute meeting and review your overall web presence. I'll also ask Nicole to give you a call in the next couple of days just to follow up and see if you have other questions that were not covered or new things come to mind, and she'll shoot those over to me and we'll get them answered for you. All right, no additional questions, then we're going to call this a wrap. Thanks everybody for their time today. Have a great weekend. I'm going on vacation this afternoon and we'll be back next Wednesday at noon. Thanks and have a good day.